Hi everyone, and welcome to Typism Summit. I'm excited to be here to explore the world of Textualis Quadrata with you. This is a quick dive to blackletter calligraphy, and I'm going to show you how to do the basic strokes and turn those strokes into letters. I will provide you with essential foundations to begin your calligraphy journey. However, it's important to know that learning the script requires a lot of time and practice. This workshop will take around 20 minutes, and you can watch the video again while it's available. And if you have any questions, please stay until the end for the live Q&A. I divided the workshop into 5 sections. In Section 1, we'll cover the prerequisites for the hands-on practice. On Section 2, we'll dive into a brief background of blackletter. Section 3, we'll discuss about the essentials. Section 4, we'll engage in a hands-on session. Finally, we'll wrap up things in Section 5. Hello, I'm Jack, and I'm a self-taught calligrapher and a freelance designer from Manila. The distinct style of blackletter greatly influenced my creative work, from logo design, tattoo art, book covers, and more. And you can also see my work in Typism Book 9. I also love teaching this script online using platforms such as Skillshare, YouTube, and Instagram. Let's begin. Section 1. The basic tool you need is a calligraphy pen that has a broad nib. For beginners, I recommend using a Pilot parallel pen or markers with broad tips. For a more experienced calligraphers, you can use metal nib pens with your preferred inks. And in the worksheets, I recommend using a Pilot parallel pen with 3.8 mm size. You'll also need inks if you are using nibs or fountain pens. I like to use watercolor ink and fountain pen ink for practice. Other inks like Sumi and India inks are also great to use. Use a good paper that is compatible with your ink, so be sure to test it first. The ink should not feather on the paper. Ruler, pencil, and eraser are optional if you are creating your guidelines from scratch. You can download the worksheets for this session from the link in the description, or you can get them from my website at jackstudio.com/b/typism2024. Section 2. Blackletter or Gothic scripts evolved from Carolingian minuscule around 12th century during the Middle Ages, and it was associated with Gothic art and architecture. The term blackletter is used to describe the visual appearance of the script. When you see a page of text in this style, it resembles a set of black letters. Textura is a descriptive term that characterizes letter forms on a page, creating a dense texture. Textualis Quadrata is a specific type within the Textura category and is one of several Gothic scripts. This script was developed to save space in writing books, with its dense and compact characteristics. Back then, paper, vellum, and parchment was very expensive, but it declined in popularity when the printing press was invented for book production. Here are some examples of how we can apply this script in the modern day. You can create logos, merchandise designs, tattoo art design, graffiti art, book covers, or type design. Section 3. Here is a quick explanation of the guideline. As you can see here, there are 4 horizontal lines. The descender line. This is the lowest point of some of the lowercase letters, like G, J, and Y. It extends below the baseline. The baseline. This is where the base of the letter sits. The waistline. This is where the tops of the letters touch. It serves as a guide to maintain a consistent letter height. Ascender line. The highest point of some of the letters such as H, K, F, and L. X height. The height of lowercase letters, excluding the ascenders and descenders. Then, we have several vertical lines. It usually doesn't have any specific measurement. This is used as a guide when writing vertical strokes to keep them straight. The nib width that you see on the left is the measurement used to determine how high your letters will be written according to the ratio and the size of the pen you are using. The ratio of your guidelines affects the look of your letters. Here are examples of 3 different ratios used. The ratio 2:4:2 tends to result in shorter letters, while the ratio 2:6:2 tends to result in taller letters. I like to use 2:5:2 ratio as I see the letters are more proportioned. This is the ratio that we will use on our practice. When you are confident in writing the script, feel free to experiment with different ratios and explore different styles. Spacing. A rule of thumb for beginners is to have 1 nib width of space between each letters and the counters. For open counters like letter C, R, and E, you can have 1.5 nib width of space. Between words, at least 2 nib widths apart, and 3 nib widths apart if the letter before that has an open counter. Apply this principle throughout your piece to achieve consistency in your work. But this rule is not set in stone, and I encourage you to do your research in historical documents that you can find in online public libraries. Pen angle. This script is written with a pen angle of 45 degrees, and there might be a subtle variation in the angle, but it's not highly visible. Please keep this in mind when you're practicing the script, keeping the same angle throughout. Now that we've covered the essential insights about the script, let's dive into the practical side. Get your tools and let's begin. So let's start with the diamond, or what we call quadrant. Maintain a pen angle of 45 degrees. Pull the pen diagonally towards the right to replicate the shape of a diamond. Then do the next stroke by connecting the corners of the diamond. Lozenge. This resembles an elongated diamond. With a 45-degree pen angle, pull the pen slightly downwards to the right. Make sure it has a longer stroke than the diamond. Vertical stroke. Start with a 45-degree pen angle and pull it down, maintaining a straight vertical line. Trace the vertical guidelines on your worksheet for straight lines and to avoid shaky strokes. Hairline upstroke. Use the tip or corner of your nib to create a hairline. Starting at the bottom, create a thin, curved upstroke to the right. Practice this until you achieve consistency. For the undercurve, we will start with a broad stroke and end with a thin stroke. Start at the top, pull your pen downwards to the right, gently curving and transition to an upward stroke. Avoid pointy strokes. Try to practice a gentle curve and have a nice even curve like this. Remember to maintain the pen angle to get that contrast. Moving to the over curve. Use a 45-degree pen angle, first pushing upwards diagonally to create a thin stroke, then gently curve towards the right and downwards, ending with a broad stroke. Try creating a small rainbow shape and ensure your pen angle is consistent throughout. Keep the same pen angle for consistency. Just like the previous stroke, try to avoid pointy strokes like this. Create a gentle curve similar to a small rainbow. Elongate the stroke and don't rush. Downstroke with bottom serif. Maintain a 45-degree pen angle, create a downstroke, and before reaching the bottom, slightly slide your pen down towards the left for a small serif. For starter, you can pause after creating the downstroke, then return to complete the bottom serif. Practice this drill and try to execute the entire stroke seamlessly. Avoid creating a long serif by controlling your hand to create a short stroke. Vertical stroke with serif. Use a 45-degree pen angle and start at the top of your guideline. Slide the pen briefly towards the left, then transition to a downstroke. This adds a short serif at the beginning for a nice detail on top of the downstroke. Avoid creating a long serif by controlling your hand to create a short stroke before transitioning to the downstroke. If you find it difficult in completing the stroke in one continuous motion, you can pause after creating the small serif. Take a breath, then return to complete the downstroke. Combining strokes. Downstroke and diamond. Start with a 45-degree pen angle and create a downstroke. Stop before reaching the baseline. Then, place the tip of your nib to the middle of the vertical stroke and draw your diamond. Downstroke and lozenge. Create a downstroke, stop before the baseline, then place the edge of your nib in the middle of the stem and draw your lozenge. Strokes that overlap and strokes whose points meet. When writing letters, you may notice that some strokes overlap, while others meet at points or corners. Both of these variations are fine. It gives a subtle character to your letters. Let's move on to letter forms. Letter H. First, we will create the vertical stroke with serif. Begin at the top of the guideline, which is the ascender line. Creating a small serif, then pull your pen to create a downstroke, stopping before the baseline. For the diamond, place the corner of your nib at the middle of the stem and pull slightly to create the foot. Create a hairline upstroke from the middle of the stem using the corner of your nib. Reach the waistline. From here, create an undercurve. If you remember the spacing guidelines that we covered earlier, measure one nib width inside the letter so you'll have an idea where you'll place the next stroke. With this reference point, create your downstroke from the undercurve and stopping before the baseline. For the diamond, place the corner of your nib at the middle of the stem and pull slightly to create the foot. Finish with a hairline upstroke for the split serif. Letter O. Start this letter with a downstroke, one angle nib width below the waistline. So, before you start, you can create a reference point by marking it. So this is where you'll start your vertical stroke. But eventually, you will be able to gauge this placement without the mark by regular practice. Create your downstroke, but remember to stop before the baseline. Then, create a lozenge by placing the tip of your nib at the center of the stem. Return to the waistline where you place your mark and create the lozenge. To check the spacing of the counter, put a mark inside it so we'll have an idea for the placement of the downstroke. Create your final stroke from the lozenge and stopping as you reach the bottom lozenge. Letter P. Start with a diamond below the waistline. Place your nib at the edge of the diamond for the downstroke with a bottom serif. Add a hairline here to close it and then fill the gap. Create a hairline upstroke up to the waistline. Follow with an undercurve, then a downstroke and stop before reaching the baseline. If you want to measure the space of the counter, just add a mark for your reference. Lastly, an overcurve starting at the left side of the stem. Visually aim to reach the corner of the previous stroke. This can be with an overlap or just touching the tips. Letter E. Start this letter with a downstroke, one angle nib width below the waistline just like the letter O. So before you start, create a reference point by marking it. So this is where you'll start your vertical stroke. Remember to stop before the baseline. Then, create a lozenge by placing the top edge of your nib at the center of the stem. Then, a curved hairline upstroke. Return to the waistline where you place your mark and create a short diagonal stroke. And a diagonal hairline stroke towards the stem. Now that we've covered each letter individually, you can practice putting them together to form the word hope. I provided a worksheet for you to practice on after this session. You can always go back to this video if you need help in writing the letters. Section 5. Important things to keep in mind. First, rest or relax. If you are feeling stiff and your strokes are not getting any better, this means that you need to take a break. Shake your hands to loosen them up and continue with fresh hands. Pace yourself. When practicing, sometimes we tend to rush our strokes just to finish a row of drills. But when you look at it, your strokes are not improving. What you can do is sync your breathing while writing the strokes one by one. This makes calligraphy meditative to some people. Self-assess. Once in a while, take the time to analyze your work. See where you can fine-tune things and take note of it. Then, on your next practice session, you can try to avoid those mistakes and practice on getting better. Be patient. Make regular practice a habit to develop muscle memory. It does take a lot of time to master the script, so be patient with yourself. Over time, you will see improvement. Thank you for being here, and I hope you learned a lot from this session. I know there's a lot of information to take in, and if you need a recap, you can watch the video again while it's available. If you enjoyed learning with me and want to practice the whole alphabet, you can get the full workbook with the Typism Summit bundle, or head over to my website to get a full copy of the workbook. Also, you can check out my Skillshare course where I break down all the letters into simple steps that you can follow along. Until next time, this is Jack. Happy writing!